video that is being streamed live. Look for the chat box on the side or bottom of the video player. This is where you can type your message. Click inside the chat box and use your keyboard to type out what you want to say.
Good day. Good day. Good day. 185 Jamaicans have been fatally shot by the police since the start of the year. For some Jamaicans, frankly speaking, that's alarming and cries out for attention. Frankly speaking, many Jamaicans are not alarmed by the incidents or the numbers and the continued rise, even though the figure is more than 100% up from the 85 killed by the security forces up to the same time last year. INDECOM, the body set up to deal with excesses by the security forces, continues to ask for body-worn cameras, worn by police officers, especially those on these operations. Frankly speaking, the agency continues to receive allegations of abuse and worse by the security forces. Today, our guest is the man who heads INDECOM, Commissioner Hugh Faulkner. He has been at the helm for 5 years. And finally this week, we have Michael Phillips, opposition spokesman on transport, who speaks to us about the rural school bus system. Viewers and listeners will know that due to technical and timing issues, Mr. Phillips did not join us when Minister of Transport, Darrell Vaz, laid out his plan 2 weeks ago on this program. And last week, we had further difficulties reaching Mr. Phillips in his constituencies. So, in the interest of fairness and providing the other side, we made all efforts we could. We recorded an interview with Mr. Phillips on Thursday, July 24th. We'll bring that to you today. Here's a taste of it from Joshua's Prepared.
They are 10 years old and older. There are diesel buses that have been retrofitted. They have been taken out of the US system, and we are now bringing them as if they are new buses into. But you could have bought new buses with the same amount of money and gotten the same amount of buses.
That's later. Thanks, Joshua. And that's later in our program. First, our condolences to the family and friends of former Grace Kennedy head, Don Webby, Senator and Minister of Government. He passed yesterday. Let's say welcome to our faithful panelists, Desmond Richards and Winnie Anderson Brown. Desmond is a little bit late. We welcome you, our viewers, and invite your comments and questions during the podcast using the comment section on YouTube as outlined at the top of the podcast. We value your feedback, and if you have not yet subscribed to the Frankly Speaking YouTube channel, please do so now. So, welcome again to Commissioner Hugh Faulkner. Commissioner, welcome. Is INDECOM up to the task given the number of incidents you have to be investigating? Is INDECOM up to the task?
Right. Thanks for the invitation, Mr. McKnight, and to the panel. Now, we'll have to start at data. Nothing drives policy like data. So if we look at the last 3 years, fatal shootings, 134, then 155 in 2023, then 189 in 2024, and so far up to Thursday of this week, 186 for 2025. Now, once there's an increase in the number of fatalities, then it means an increase in the number of incident scenes attendance. So you need human resource to meet the expanding cohort of cases. And so to that extent, we have taken all the steps to increase our forensic numbers in terms of human resources and our investigative numbers. And we also bear in mind that the complement of the security forces have increased over time. And you might have heard this during the week of the Technology Expo by the security forces, that they have increased by approximately 5,000 members. So if you have more members being deployed on the streets, then you are likely to have greater interaction and more complaints. So in terms of the rulings, INDECOM, we probably have the highest number of charges since the Privy Council ruled that our prosecutorial authority is the DPP. For 2024, we had 24 cases ruled for charge. Of this, 8 were fatal shootings. This included the triple fatal shooting on Windward Road, where 2 officers were charged. In January of this year, we received a ruling for charge for the shooting incident at Ribby's car park on Arden Road. And we have had other instances, including the Mahabir shooting in St. Catherine, which some people refer to as the hot soup case. We have had a shooting in Hanover, which within 1 year we completed and had the charge. That's the Abado Samuels case. And we had another case in Montego Bay at a sports bar where the case was concluded within 1 year. So we have had 24 cases ruled for charge within a 24-month period. This is the highest since the court ruled that the DPP is your prosecutorial. So in terms of charges,
24 cases in a 12-month or 24-month.
The rulings that we got back from the DPP.
Okay. Yes, I'm with you.
Yes. So some of those cases, 3 of them happened within 1 year, and some were beyond that, some were within a 2-year period. And so far, for 2025, we have had 20 rulings for charge. So over the January 1, 2024 to July 24th, 2025, we had 44 rulings for charge. Not all of the officers have been charged as yet, because we have at least 3 which have been pending for more than a year now. We cannot locate the officers, and the other cases will all be charged within a matter of weeks, those who have not yet been charged. So this is a high...
officers you cannot locate, which means that you suspect that they're not here.
Well, I wouldn't add any suspicion to their absence, Mr. McKnight, seeing as I have to be objective, but we cannot locate them.
You are an attorney, well established. But let me just ask you,
Yes.
the cases that you mentioned, that's significant, but about how long does it take, or is there no sort of average for how long before you can close a case? Let me use that pretty layman
Right.
term.
Well,
Yes.
I know I might be at odds with Mrs. Anderson Brown on this point, but there are cases, of the cases that I have named to you, Mr. McKnight, 3 fatal shootings, we had digital assistance. And in the case of the triple, this is a triple fatality on Windward Road, that was done within a matter of about 10 days to 2 weeks the most. In the case of the Arden fatal shooting, again, that was done in a matter of weeks. So where you have digital images and body-worn camera footage, we believe that the conclusion of the matter can be much quicker, even though you may be awaiting on ballistics evidence. But there could be sufficient that a matter could either be discerned as being not incriminating or discerned as being incriminating. So it would assist a great deal in the timeliness of investigations and the matters moving forward or coming to a determination.
Thank you. So before we come to
that, let me
go
respond.
on, Winnie. Go ahead, Winnie.
We are on the same page. Use in this digital age, the more technology we use, the shorter time it will take. So my thing with the body worn cameras is, why not ask for some robot cops rather than just keep harping on the body worn cameras? Because after time, you'll be far more efficient if you had some of those robot cops that can really get the information while the cops are doing what they're doing. Then the robots will be able to do what they're doing. So that's that. So I'm not at odds with you. I'm saying, why not use more of the technology or request more of the technology, because that's where we're going.
Right. So that suggestion you could put to the law enforcement bodies, Mrs. Sanderson Brown, and we would do our review, as to the appropriateness of same. But we somewhat confine our responses to the reality that we face currently.
Okay. So let me just ask then. So what's the latest on the before I go on the cameras? So you are saying you have enough officers, you have enough staff support within your system to be able to respond to this increasing number, because you pointed out that last year there were 189 fatal shootings, and this year so far there are 186, almost the same number with 5 full months to go.
Right. With the numbers increasing, Mr. McKnight, we have to be planning quarter by quarter for increment in our personnel. If not, your current staff would have to be rotated too quickly from one scene to the other, and that would have also limited their investigative time to invest in a matter. So we are on an expansion mode to meet the matching figures. We're also seeking to expand our office capabilities and office space to accommodate our customers and the officers themselves, to have additional interview rooms. And we have had support so far from the Ministry of Finance in terms of employing additional forensic personnel, even on a temporary basis, to meet the increase. So it does demand increased personnel. And so far, we have been meeting the challenges, but we are still on the drive to expand our staff complement.
So now, Commissioner Faulkner, you live here, you work a lot with, when the Legal Aid Council, you work with a lot of people who couldn't afford some services and so forth. Now, many people see INDECOM as restraining the police, and not restraining them in the sense of just the law, just being in the way of getting these criminals, these vicious criminals who have demonstrated to Jamaicans over the years the extent of their barbarity and brutality. How do you respond to people who say that?
Yeah, Mr. McKnight, we try and have as much outreach as possible. And this would explain that we honored your invitation to be on this forum. But from time to time, we go to other events. And believe you me, that sentiment is directed at us. Not only that, we're mindful that there were a number of the members of the security forces who, courted hostility towards INDECOM. So one of the things that we did, which was started by the previous commissioner, which we commend, is that we ensure, and note now, I mentioned the Police Federation, sir. So we had our meetings. So I've met with Federation President Rohan James, Patre Rowe, and the current President Corporal McBean. And we believe dialogue can help to promote the understanding. Our role, Mr. McKnight, is to investigate the conduct of the security forces that lead to injury or death or abuse. And we must do that impartially, objectively, and independently. And we have stressed that that is our mission. We are not acting out of any malice. We're acting out of fairness. And we try to communicate that. So even though we have had the highest number of rulings for charge, so far we can say we have had cooperation, and we give God thanks for that.
Okay.
And how, Winnie, go ahead, Winnie.
Yes, my question is this. Is it out of your remit to compare the number of police killings with the number of murders? Is that out of your remit? Because when you isolate the police killings from the murders, the focus, the public has this feel that you're only after the police. So that's why I'm asking the question, if that is out of your remit.
Right. I think, Mrs. Anderson Brown, the public is mindful of the awesome powers of the security forces. And in any law-abiding democracy, the security forces do have a role. The security forces can proffer an arrest, can remove you from your dwelling and put you in confinement. The security forces can search your premises with or without a warrant, depending whether you're under emergency powers or not. The security forces are armed with lethal weapons and non-lethal weapons, small arms and high-powered arms. So what INDECOM is, it's just that oversight body to ensure that these awesome powers and responsibilities, there's an oversight body, which is an independent civilian oversight, which does not involve the security forces examining and investigating themselves. So that is the role of INDECOM. And we do our best to remain independent in that we report to Parliament, not to any minister. We are independent because our act says we take investigative direction from no one. And thirdly, we are independent because no serving member of the security forces will be part of our staff to investigate security force members. So far, I think that distinction makes us to focus on the fatal shootings, injuries, or abuse by the security forces, while we're mindful of the murder rate. It is not an area that we are inclined to trespass into.
Okay, so in other words, not even for contextualization, you just focus on what you have to do. And this is important to understand that it is, the short answer to my question is that that's really not your focus.
And let me tell you why, Mrs. Anderson Brown. Regardless of the antecedent of the person who dies in a confrontation with the police, we cannot let the antecedent, even if it's alleged for 100 things, that particular incident is what we have to look into to see the propriety of the actions of the security forces. And what we have done now at INDECOM, and Mr. McKnight mentioned my prior duties, we have added family liaison officers to our staff. We now have 2, and I need more, Mr. McKnight. So in the coming months, we hope to have at least 3. And these family liaison officers will liaise with the families of persons who have died in confrontation with the security forces to ensure that there's sympathetic and empathetic contact, and also to identify any social intervention that may be needed, whether it be grief counseling. And we also do social intervention referral. So if an incident happens at a scene, regardless the antecedent of the deceased, and we attend, and there's no running water, there's no kitchen facility, there's no bathroom facility, children are not going to school, we have a mechanism to do the referrals in those cases. So the antecedent of the person, yes, we're mindful of that, and it carries some legal significance, but we actually look at the incident, regardless what you might have been alleged to have done, how was it that you met your demise? That is what is looked at, and we complete the file and submit to the DPP.
So you're saying your investigation is proceeding blinkered in a way, regardless of where the dirty boy come from, or the known criminal, or the bad man, or the even his alias give him away, and regardless of the area, the community, known or known to be a troubled community, you are focused on the incident.
Yes, we must, Mr. McKnight, we must, to see whether there was propriety and the actions complied with force orders and complied with law.
Fair enough.
All right. Give me a sense of the cooperation levels you are getting from the police and the public to your work.
Well, what we find, Mr. McKnight.
Welcome to Desmond Richards, who has joined us. As I said,
yes. Let me just add my welcome to Mr. Richards. All right. So far, as I indicated to you, between January 1, 2024 and July 24th, 2025, we have had 44 cases where the DPP ruled that officers were to be charged. Let me just indicate that of this 44, in 2024, 3 were the DCS officers, correctional officers, and 1 was a JDF officer that we charged for a fatality in Denham Town. So they are mainly JCF officers of the 44. And as I indicated to you, that there now is about 5 cases where there has been ruling for charge, and we have not been able to contact the officers so far. 3 from last year that we have had, and there's 1 case coming from some years ago where we have not been able to contact the officer. But notwithstanding our highest number of charges since the DPP is our prosecutorial authority, the officers, sir, have been cooperating. And my directors of complaints indicate that once they are summoned to attend for interviews, they show up. And if for any reason, for example, an officer is injured or have some circumstances that make them unable to, we would grant them the additional time. But so far, I could not complain about cooperation, because I would have thought that with higher number of charges, you may have, the hostility, etc. But so far, I must indicate that we have had cooperation, and we keep at least a 1-year meeting with the Police Federation and the High Command of the JCF, JDF, and DCS. That's also to keep the lines of communication open.
Okay.
Mr. Faulkner.
Yes, Mr. Richards.
Could you tell our listeners and viewers how many cops have been, the DPP has ruled to be charged for murder between 24 and now? And the other question is, to what extent deficiencies in the constabulary is hampering the work of INDECOM?
Repeat the last section.
To what extent deficiencies in the JDF, the JCF, is hampering the work of INDECOM?
Right. Now, in 2024, as I indicated, from the rulings we received, some of those rulings, 3 of them had to do with cases 1 year old. And the Windward Road case, same within 2024. Then in January, we had the Ribis case, which again, in a matter of weeks, those cases were charged. And as I had indicated earlier, some cases you will have to wait until you receive the ballistics reports, which can take a long time because the forensics, the lab is overwhelmed. While they can, move quite speedily with the DNA and biology exhibits and also chemistry for gunpowder residue, etc. The ballistics, the demand on them overwhelms the capacity of staff they have. So cases can sometimes be delayed, especially where the case has a number of JCF, JDF, joint military, and they discharge their weapons. So you have a number of processing of weapons, a number of ballistic exhibits to be tested, which takes time. So we have indicated that with digital footage, body-worn cameras,
Yeah.
cases can be more speedily adjudicated to determine whether you proceed to a charge or not. In the absence of the body-worn cameras, I believe this would be a hamper on the investigative diligence and integrity. So again, this is a broken record that we repeat, that this is something that we are saying that the police planned operation teams, the area fugitive apprehension teams, the operational support teams ought to be equipped with body-worn cameras, because the cases that I indicated to you, including a triple fatality, we were able to put that matter within the court in a matter of days and under 3 weeks.
So,
Because
Commissioner, what are you here?
The
Go ahead,
government,
Desmond.
hold on there, Franklin. The government has given the impression that the reason why the police are not wearing body-worn cameras is because the infrastructure is not in place for that. Is that true?
right, well, as I indicated, we have had dialogues, stakeholders, consultations with the security forces. And indeed, some body-worn cameras have been deployed, and I believe more so to the PSTEB officers. But we're saying, even if you do not have adequate numbers, the planned operations, which account for roughly 47% of the fatalities since January, ought to be a priority area until you can equip everybody.
I don't want to go too fast over that one there, Commissioner. In other words, nearly half of the fatalities that have taken place since January have occurred in planned operations. Police know they were going on these operations, and half of the fatalities since January have occurred then. So those planned operations, at least you're saying, those officers should have these cameras.
Right. So, Mr. McKnight, just for statistical accuracy, 47%, so just under half.
Yes,
I wouldn't
yes.
even elevate it.
Yes,
You
no,
know,
bro.
so just for statistical accuracy,
all right,
yes,
that's it.
that is our findings, and that is why we say that those teams ought to be equipped with body-worn cameras. And when we look at the 186 fatalities, 0 officers had reported any use of body-worn cameras. We have to go back to the 2023 2024 data, because now we have improved our data capture system, that we also inquire, were you issued with a body-worn camera? Were you trained in the use of a body-worn camera? Were you using a body-worn camera for every officer that we investigate? And in 2023 2024, we had 7 cases, 2 from fatalities, police shooting fatalities, and 5 from police shooting injury, not fatalities. Of those 7, none, they acknowledged that they had it, but none had turned on the body-worn cameras of those 7.
Yes. So, you know what? I don't know if you can help me to understand this, but from my perspective, what I know is that body-worn cameras would assist the police, because we know, well, let me put it this way, I know that some of the stories that we get at shootouts from civilians are not accurate. But with body-worn cameras, what would happen? It would improve the police credibility, and what we want, what we in Jamaica want, most of us want, is a credible police force. We are not supporting gunmen who take up arms against. If you take up arms against the security forces, the consequences are going to be deadly. let everybody understand that. So what we want when the police say that there was a shootout and people say, no. The police can just put the evidence out there and say, here is what happened. And I think that would be of great help to the police to improve their credibility.
Well, Mr. Richards, I am at consensus ad idem. In other words, sir, I share those views. And we have indicated, because in everything we do, we have to be objective, that the security forces themselves, this question of public trust and confidence would be enhanced with the use of digital footage. Most newscasts, most reports, you will find the community giving a diametrically opposed version of what transpired compared to what the police says has transpired. And we have indicated that the cameras can themselves refute some of the false allegations against the community and refute some of the false allegations against the police. So we believe it is a win-win on both sides. Additionally, the body-worn cameras, studies have shown that where body-worn cameras and digital footage, CCTV, are known to exist, it's like a restraining force on the conduct of not only the citizen, but also the law enforcement officer. It provides information as to the date and time of an incident. Sometimes it is in question. When did something happen? It can give you information without human subjectivity. A human witness in the box sometimes selectively recall things and selectively forgets things. So it adds a little more completion. With the footage, you can see what happens at the start of an operation. You can see what happens during, and even if there's any injury, etc. You can see the activities as to see whether law enforcement or civilian steps had been taken to quickly access them to medical attention. So it gives you a better picture than the disjointed human accounts, which now we'll have to rely on. Additionally, the court does not just accept any footage. There are safeguards to ensure that the footage, the maker is known, that there's no tampering, no editing of the footage, and that the instrument that recorded it was in good condition. So these prerequisites would have to be met. Additionally, even if there's no fatality, the police high command can review an operation and identify any areas where further training, because sometimes we see accidental shootings, etc., among the security forces. So it also would provide not only the investigative value, the training value, and also the court evidence value. It could also help to defend the security forces when they are acting in justified, because we have seen cases.
Mr. Faulkner, we're wrapping up. I don't know if Desmond has a question, but we have to wrap up. But what I wanted to finish on.
Before you wrap up.
Just let me ask him this, and then you go ahead so that he can answer both. So what's the latest word you're hearing, Mr. Faulkner, on the cameras? Because you've made a compelling case. People have made a compelling case for a long time for cameras that to serve the police as well as the citizens. What's the latest word to you on the cameras from official?
All right. So we had met maybe a couple of months ago with the police high command, and it was outlined to us all the procurement steps being taken and all the backroom steps that have to be put in place. But we'll be meeting close to the end of August, Mr. McKnight, where we'll get even a better update as to what is what. But
Desmond, your final question to Mr. Faulkner before he has to leave us.
Yeah. I joined late, but the police killing is such a serious matter in the country. Because what is happening, is that if you observe that the noise from ordinary Jamaicans about these police killings are not not much. Because what has happened, the crime rate in Jamaica has reached a point where Jamaicans, I think most Jamaicans are prepared for the police to kill some guys in order to bring down the rate. Right. But
Mr. Richards,
yeah.
I think Mrs. Anderson Brown had asked us to what extent do we pay attention to the reduction in murders. And we do, as a responsible commission of parliament. But it cannot deter us from what is our statutory mandate, which is to inquire into the conduct of the security forces that lead to injury, fatality, and injury and abuse. When we look at our statistics of the 44 cases, a number have to do with assault. We have investigated security forces hit and run incident and proffered a charge, and we have also charged officers on collisions, not just a collision, the previous one hit and run and collisions, and other discharge of firearm, number of about 7 to 9 shooting injuries. So it's a wide gamut of offenses that we have to look at, but we have to be just independent, objective, and impartial.
And from your perspective, what is your reason as to why the police are not wearing body cams when they are going on these special operations? What do you think is the reason?
Right. So, Mr. Richards, I wouldn't wish to give a general reason, because anywhere there is a step taken by the security forces to hinder or obstruct the investigative process, it is open to a charge. So I wouldn't wish to give a general basis, because you might find that it differs from officer to officer. So you would understand, and so as to maintain, because so far, we have not heard that we have been unfair in any of the 44 cases that we have ruled for charge so far. So we'll just keep the objectivity and apply it to each case.
Commissioner Hugh Faulkner, thank you very much, Commissioner of INDECOM.
Yes.
We have to leave it there. We're very grateful to you, and you're passionate about your work and the independence of the Commission, and you stand as one of the guardrails of the society, having faith in the society, in the processes themselves, as well as in the police force and in the rights of citizens. Thank you very much, sir.
Right. Thank you, Mr. McKnight, and thanks to Mr. Richards and Ms. Anderson Brown.
Thank you.
So the
Okay,
debate
sir.
planned school bus service and the used buses being imported for its start, that debate is as vibrant as ever. And also, it is also steeped in politics. Nobody can pretend otherwise. Today, we will bring a recording of an interview I had with PNP spokesman Michael Phillips, who has criticized the government's plan and outlines the opposition's alternative. We recorded the interview because the 2 previous attempts at live failed for different reasons. Here's Mr. Phillips. Again, feel free to comment. So we're going to have a brief conversation now with Michael Phillips, who is the opposition spokesperson on transport. And the PNP has criticized the government's plan, the school bus program, on various grounds. I want Mr. Phillips to start with us by telling us what are the issues that he and the party, suppose, have with this. Mr. Phillips, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, man. Well, let me start off by saying that what we are criticizing is really the what has been proposed by the minister in the type of system that he wants to institute. But let me just make it clear, we are not against a school bus system, be it rural or urban. We have suggested a plan in moving 20,000 students daily compared to the plan that the JLP has professed to be moving 4,000 students on a daily basis. We have concerns on the type of buses that the government has been proposing to introduce, that they have spent $1.4 billion to purchase. The buses having to come to Jamaica to be retrofitted with the doors coming on the right-hand side, which should be on the left-hand side. We have concern where the driver will be sitting in front of the door, and the size of the buses for rural Jamaica. So, when you look at the data, 40% of our students that are absent from school or are from deep rural Jamaica. So our proposal is really emphasizing on those students in deep rural Jamaica where these buses can't traverse, and how it is that we move these students from these deep rural communities to be able to access transport to school. In many of these.
Before we go to your specific proposal, so you are against, you are all for a public transport system for rural areas and for children generally going to school. But your problem is with the buses themselves, the cost of the buses, what?
They are used buses. They are 10 years old and older. They are diesel buses that have been retrofitted. They have been taken out of the US system, and we are now bringing them as if they are new buses into a system with a different topography. The maintenance cost is going to be different. You could have bought new buses with the same amount of money and gotten the same amount of buses, which will give you a longer lifespan. And also you're introducing them into a system where the infrastructure is nowhere in the areas that we are now putting these buses. We don't have that infrastructure for the JUTC in rural Jamaica to want to maintain the buses, to gas them. The minister has proposed that the buses will be parked at the school. Many principals have spoken to me and said they are not equipped with the manpower or even the facility to park these buses and to maintain these buses.
So what is your proposal now? Your proposal, if your party's proposal.
So, I think the minister...
you would like to operate, the system you would like to operate.
So we are proposing a combined, yes, of government support, but also to work with private investors, because at this point in time now, the JUTC, which has an exclusive license for the KMTR, is unable to even provide enough seats for the license that it now has. So for them now to take resources, putting it in rural Jamaica, when you already have private investors in the system moving school children, why wouldn't we then include more of them into a comprehensive bus system, augmenting it with buses from central government through the JUTC or any other company that the government may see fit. But we are saying that we can include more private investors to move more students without having to infringe on those who are already in a school bus system, as we do now have moving children who are on the PATH program.
Describe for me the system, explain to the mother, the father, the student, how your school bus system would work. Just explain it for us.
So what we're looking at is utilizing private investors who would go through a similar system as now those who operate with the Ministry of Education moving PATH students. You have many deep rural communities that don't have a taxi route, so what you have are illegal operators operating white plate vehicles, what we will refer to as robots. And what we're saying is that what we want to do is to see how we can uplift those who are operating in that system, in allowing them to purchase a bus, be it a 20-seater, 15-seater, and seeing if we can give them a license now to operate in those rural communities, to move those children which are not attending school on that regular basis and move them from the community to the town centers to the schools, or from the community directly to the schools, right? So we will give them a special license that will operate under the ambit of the JUTC, and they would charge that subsidized fare, because there will be an arrangement with the schools, charge that subsidized fare to move these children from home, from community to school.
Mr. Phillips,
So
a lot of parents would tell you that a big part of the problem why children are not getting to school on time and getting to school under stress is that the so-called private operators of the taxis and the buses are part of the problem. They don't take the students in proper decent condition. They don't.
you heard what I said. No, let me interject there. I said a system that is operated under the ambit of the school bus system, because a regular taxi man is not going to take a subsidized fare. So this is an arrangement, right? Just like you have in Kingston. In Kingston, the JUTC offer a franchise to the Waterhouse area. These persons operate under the ambit of the JUTC, but they are franchise holders for certain routes. So it is a similar thing. You now have buses operating under the ambit of the Ministry of Education that move school children on a daily basis. So what we are saying is that we are broadening it to not just operate for part students, but for students that are recommended by the school itself. We want to move 20,000 students on a daily basis. So this is not just a regular taxi man that you see on the road, right? These are persons that are vetted for a comprehensive school bus system that have the proper vehicle to transport students safely. We're not talking about a Pro Box or just a Kingfish. We're talking about vehicles that are conducive for public transport, moving our students safely from community
how much would your
to the
program
school.
cost? How much would your program cost in the first year?
How much it would cost? We
Cost the
said it
government.
would cost us $9 billion a year, which part of that is already taken up by the PATH program, because you're including the PATH students. And what we will now is expand that program from PATH students to another 10,000 students.
So your program is more costly than Mr. Vaz's program.
It will be, because what you're going to find with Mr. Vaz's proposal is that outside of finding that additional amount for the subsidy, there is going to be an additional cost to the JUTC. One, for purchasing the buses, two, for maintaining the buses. So I am suspecting that the loss of the JUTC is going to increase from $10 billion annually to probably about an additional $5 billion to about $15 billion annually under the program that is being proposed by the minister.
Okay. Now, Mr. Vaz says you guys are bad-minded and wicked. How you respond when you heard that?
I don't expect much more from Mr. Vaz. He's very limited in his vocabulary. And if that's all he knows, then obviously Campion failed him. And, you know, I'm not going to get in that tit-to-tat with Mr. Vaz on that. What we are doing is announcing our policy on how it is that we are seriously wanting, one, to not bring any more losses to the JUTC, but how it is that we can also incorporate Jamaicans in making them into business people also, right? And operating, because the because hold on, Franklin, the same man that they are now training to drive those JUTC buses, many of them were operators in the public transport sector. And let me just say this to you. What we need to stop doing is treating the public transport sector as a hustle and start treating it as a business with investors. That's what we need to start doing. And majority of those who are in the public transport sector are good, law-abiding Jamaicans. In any industry that you have, in the church, in the public sector, in government, you have some bad eggs. And we should not allow the bad eggs to pull down the public transport sector. There are many good Jamaicans who have invested their life savings in that sector. And what we need to do is build up those good ones and weed out the bad ones.
Okay, now Mr. Vaz is importing about 110 buses for the system now for September. What would you do? What can you say to Jamaicans now? Should your party become government after the next elections, which are expected, those elections are expected somewhere as early as September or even earlier, but September to the end of that first term? What would happen should your party win the election? What would you do with those buses?
Look, we are not into mashing down systems, we are into building up and improving them. If those buses are going to last 2 years or 3 years, then we'll keep them in the system. The challenge that I have with the buses, and just for the rural bus system that the minister has proposed to roll out with the JUTC also, is that there's a lack of infrastructure for the maintenance of those buses. So if those buses break down, they're going to have to get a record to carry them into Kingston to the JUTC. Right? So what we'll first be doing before we roll out a comprehensive rural bus system is, one, look at our bus parks. Look at those taxi stands and bus parks which are inadequate. Two, build out the infrastructure for the widening of the JUTC service into rural Jamaica. Right? So those are some of the things that we will work on first before we start putting the assets into rural Jamaica.
Does have some JOTC buses now, as you know, do go to some rural areas. St. Thomas.
Yes. So let us use the one in St. Thomas. When the one in St. Thomas, the one that goes to Morant Bay, when it deadheads into Morant Bay at nights, it has to be parked at the police station. That's not the type of infrastructure or the lack of infrastructure is causing that. And what we're saying is that what you need to do is really not put the cart before the horse, but putting the proper infrastructure into a system that is workable, that will cost less to the taxpayers, right? Because we don't disagree with our rural bus system. We don't disagree with a school bus system. We have always said that the same subsidy that our older persons get and the persons with disability and school children get in the KMTR.
School children
right, that it should happen right across the country, because it's not just taxpayers in Kingston that subsidize the JUTC. So we agree with that. But it's how it is that you roll out that system that will make sense and not cost the taxpayers way more, that we can't even maintain the system in the medium to long term.
Mr. Phillips,
that's the difference between us.
There are some onlookers who say, Mr. Vaz beat it to the punch. Yes, you might want a rural bus service. Yes, you have a system, but Mr. Vaz jumped out there, used the opportunity, and got some buses that people can actually see, and hence beat it to the punch.
Well, Mr. Vaz is in government, so I will expect that he would beat us to it because he's in government. What we are saying is that let us put something that makes sense. And that is why I said to the minister, let us debate this, right? I'm not saying that our plan is perfect too. Our plan may need some tweaking also, right? But what he's proposing right now, and I know that many Jamaicans would prefer to see us spend the money on buses that make sense for our road network than him just saying it is an emergency. What emergency could it be when he has been in government for 10 years, that it has now become an emergency just before an election, and to spend money, $1.4 billion on used buses, which are not even retrofitted for our market? What could be an emergency that Mr. Vaz could have seen?
Is your side calling for any details, any investigation into the cost and the procurement involved in acquiring these buses?
Well, we have been asking questions, and there are persons in the media like yourself who have been asking questions and who have been told that they have that they will not be getting the answers that they are required. But Minister Vaz at first proposed that the buses cost 1.4 billion. Now you're hearing that it is 1.4 billion, including the retrofitting of the buses and 2 years of parts and the servicing contract. But yet still the buses are being retrofitted here in Jamaica with JUTC staff. So I am not even sure what the truth is, that Minister Vaz, because the goalposts keep on moving. Every time that you ask a question, then the goalpost moves. So, you know, what we want to ensure is that the children are safe, they are being transported in a safe manner, and that we ensure that all the buses, before they go out in September, that the current buses are retrofitted properly with the doors on the left-hand side. As I said in my earlier remarks, that I still have concerns with the driver sitting behind the door, because the driver will not be able to properly view those students coming into the bus without looking outside of the bus itself. You know, so there are some safety concerns still, but you know, it is money that the government has already spent. And what we are just saying is that the system that the Jamaica Labour Party government has proposed, that our proposal is one that is better than what they have proposed. And we will be moving more students on a daily basis compared to what the government is proposing and moving.
Just finally, now wrapping up, you are an MP for Northwest Manchester. Oh, well. Thank you very much, Joshua, for bringing us there. And the minister gave a summary statement there saying his proposals are better. Winnie and Desmond had both prepared comments on matters they considered pressing and very important. We tried with it to keep this thing together. We are unable to take those comments this week. Thanks to them for being with us, for Winnie and Desmond. Thanks to our special guest, Hugh Faulkner of INDECOM, Commissioner of INDECOM, and to Michael Phillips, transport spokesman of the People's National Party. Special thanks to Joshua Black for technical services. We will be taking a break next week, Emancipation Weekend. We wish you all a good Emancipation Day. Desmond, you wanted to hear about it for Independence Emancipation Day, which is Friday, a public holiday. Desmond, say you want to hail quickly, Nama.
You want me to do what?
Okay, all right. You missed the opportunity to say your special day for Emancipation Day that you had planned to hear. Please join us again on Sunday. Please join us again on Sunday, August 10 at 4 for the Frankly Speaking Jamaica Podcast. Thanks to all of you for being with us. I'm Franklin McKnight. Until then.